I managed to grow corn, then the wind and hail came. We'll see how that impacted yield and how severe weather may actually be a good learning opportunity. Plus, ranchers fed up with business as usual get into business for themselves. We'll check out progress on the new sustainable beef plant in North Platte. And the combine is cozy with kids in tow. It's go time, and we see how everyone pitches in. It's time to grow. The beef industry is heavily consolidated, and a group of cattlemen says it's time to control their own destiny.
And that'll be the main hallway that you can walk the length of the building.
Transparency is built into the walls of sustainable beef. The $300 million packing plant will have windows so tours can see how beef is produced at a plant founded by ranchers.
We really are using a co-op model where as producers, we're doing something together we can't do by ourselves, and we will share the profits back to our producers, and we think that's really a good, the co-op model is really good.
So that's how the market is supposed to work.
Senator Deb Fisher says instead of complaining about a monopoly in the market, these ranchers had a different vision.
I just thought, he's kind of crazy, to be honest with you. But wow, what a huge investment for the state, for this area.
1 year after breaking ground, hundreds of precast panels are in place. They've moved 50,000 semi-loads of dirt to build the site up 13 feet and driven pilings down 40 feet. For all you see outside, much of the investments will be within these walls.
Half the cost of the project is equipment inside the plant. We'll see rapid growth here as the walls go up.
CEO David Briggs says North Platte welcomed them with open arms.
It's almost like this project's like was meant to be as things fell together.
They're planning on 800 employees processing 1,500 head of cattle a day, shipping beef to Walmart stores across the country, bringing dollars back to the heart of the beef state.
Well, the livestock industry in Nebraska is the economic engine.
Right in the middle of sand hills where some of the best cow-calf operators are.
The plant's scheduled to be open by the summer of 2025. North Platte features a revitalized downtown, and the addition of sustainable beef should have impacts throughout the community. The Canteen District features unique shops plus banking and services along with restaurants. It may further become a destination with the addition of the packing plant and development of a port in Lincoln County.
They're doing very well. I mean, also they have a new recreation center that's going to be built, and a lot of good things going on here in North Platte.
Sustainable beef will occupy a plant 500,000 square feet, processing 1,500 head a day. It's going to take a workforce and housing.
Correct. So the town of North Platte's been very good to work on. They've been working hard on housing. We have a lot of apartments going in and housing projects going in the last year. We also have things proposed for the next year or two. We think we're going to make progress there. I do expect to start hiring my senior management team in 2024, and then that group will put together the plan for how we're going to hire people in 25.
They do anticipate some employees will come from within the community and some from nearby communities, but also a substantial influx of new folks. A 2018 housing study found the community is working to promote missing middle housing, affordable housing, and workforce housing. As the growing season comes to a close, it's time to harvest the crop. And for us, we've been playing in a big sandbox thanks to the help of Nebraska Extension. Well, we are visiting now with Chuck Burr, Extension Educator out at the TAPS plot. We've made the decisions this year, picked out some seed, decided how much to irrigate and fertilize, and now we're picking some corn.
Yeah, things are looking pretty good right now. It's drier than I thought maybe it would be. We're in that 15 to 17% range, so it's time to get it in the bin.
Did have a kind of a wind and hail event. That's probably the story of the season.
Yeah, we're probably in that 50% defoliation range, which should impact yield about 30%. So we're kind of seeing that, not the top yields that we've had the last couple of years, but still pretty decent yields.
In a way, though, does that give you some more learning, some data that you can glean something from?
It really does. A question I get a lot of times, I've had hail corn, what's the water use going to be? Well, after this year, we should be able to have that data available this winter.
Yeah, because that's one of those things that maybe you just kind of go by gut instinct and you try to figure it out, but do you hope through this that you'll have some numbers you can show?
Yeah, we'll have some numbers. The other thing to remember in hailed corn, for crop insurance requirements, you got to keep it watered. Put a soil moisture probe out there, then you can tell. Don't guess what the crop's using, what it's done in the past, but put a probe out there and then you got something to go off of.
That's one of the neat things about TAPS is you've got that access to technology. The growers are taking part in this contest. You've got several different companies you work with.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We provide a lot of technology from soil probes, plant sensors, satellite, drone imagery, all the tools, the technology available for our producers to try it out and see if it has value on their farm.
And I know you try to talk to people that take part in this and ask them, did that kind of increase your confidence level, and what do you hear?
Yeah, we actually did an end of the season survey this past year, and 75% are adopting technology, at least on a limited basis on their farm. About 85% have tried a new management strategy, so that's pretty exciting to see. They are learning things in TAPS, taking it home to their operation and being more efficient and more profitable.
I know with the particular sensor I had, I could log on. It showed me what the profile was looking like, and there would be times where I'm thinking, oh, we've got to be getting dry. I've got to put some water down, and it says, you're in good shape. So, it really does help you that way.
It really does, and TAPS is kind of the ideal place to learn to use those sensors. Like you say, you can allow it to get really dry. Does that impact yield? If it does, it's on the TAPS plot. It's not on your operation back at home. So this is the place to learn that, get comfortable with these tools and technologies, and then, like I say, adopt them on your farm.
But in terms of the individual participants, wildly different decisions on how much fertilizer and the timing of it.
Oh, huge range. And yeah, some people like to spread it out, which is what we like to see, apply it as the crop's needing it. Some still like to put on a ton up front, which is maybe not a good year. This past year, maybe not a big deal because we didn't have a ton of rain, after it was applied. But some years you do, and you could lose a lot of that to the groundwater.
Officially, a third of the state's corn crop is in the bin. The latest crop progress report shows corn rates mostly good to fair, more than 30% harvested, continuing to run a little ahead of average, and past the halfway mark on soybeans. We're also nearing the end of winter wheat planting. Pasture and range conditions rate mostly good to fair. Just 40% of topsoil has adequate moisture. And when it comes to soil health, a couple of local NRD is working together to expand the number of acres with new soil health practices. Nebraska's famous for its beef, specifically corn-fed beef.
I can take off a Monday or a Tuesday.
This is just another day at the office for Heath Bish and his three-legged dog. But it's a field trip in the truest sense for those trying to make major corporations more sustainable.
They have their own goals, so their climate goals, their water goals.
Cargill, McDonald's, and Target have all set goals to lower the carbon footprint of the beef they sell, and that includes the corn that feeds cattle.
And this runs through the whole supply chain, and obviously these companies, a huge impact environmental that they have comes from the farming system.
The three companies are investing $8 million to incentivize Nebraska farmers to capture carbon and improve soil health.
They would receive $45 to the acre.
That's the max a farmer can get through the public-private partnership.
They can also participate in a carbon market pilot project. So they have two avenues to get some assistance, lower that barrier of entry to some of these practices.
Heath Bish isn't sold on carbon markets.
Too many variables and no straight answers with any companies.
He says the growers adopting climate-smart practices have done it because they believe in it.
And the ones that aren't going to do it even if you did pay them.
It's an air delivery system. These companies think they can convince some farmers by eliminating some of the uncertainty.
And that might make them feel a little bit more comfortable in joining these type of projects because they don't feel alone. They have financial assistance, they have technical assistance.
But
Bish says it could pay to improve marginal ground.
Some extra money to do it, I would take it.
The goal is to enroll around 100 producers at 20,000 acres, starting with farms from Gothenburg to York, and connecting farmers to corporate decision makers.
They had great questions, I guess.
They've already had those interactions and they can learn more from them and do it right.
These companies investing $8 million as part of their efforts towards sustainability and addressing climate change. Millions are available to help landowners adopt new conservation. Irrigators in the Central Platte and Twin Platte Natural Resources Districts have a month to apply for USDA conservation programs. Funds are available to help landowners apply more efficient irrigation, install conservation practices, and convert irrigated acres to non-irrigated. The objectives are to reduce water consumption in the area from Gothenburg to Elm Creek, where groundwater is in a declining status. Later, babies to grandparents, how harvest brings entire families together. Up next, we talk with a member of Nebraska's newest commodity board.
This portion of NTV's Grow is sponsored by Acres Equipment, solutions for every field. Acres has what you need to get the job done.
Well, Logan, kind of a unique fact about you, you're on the Nebraska Dry Pea and Lentil Commission.
Yes, we just established a couple of years ago. Just really the main purpose to starting that commission was so that we could be part of the USA Dry Pea and Lentil Council, which is out of Moscow, Idaho. But they have the revenue protection crop insurance for dry peas, lentils, chickpeas, otherwise known as garbanzo beans. Yeah. But so now we have a 1% checkoff established, so we can be part of that, and hopefully we can get the revenue protection, which, you know, that's one of the reasons why people don't grow some of these other crops, is because we've got such a safety net locally with the corn and soybeans and wheat and some of the other crops. But that's what, other than the easy button for corn and soybeans, there's quite a safety net established for it as well.
You know, but in terms of soil health and regenerative ag or whatever kind of, you know, perspective, do you see some benefits to even, you know, switching things up and maybe trying to establish some more pea acres or something around here?
You know, we've definitely seen soil health benefits for rotating in another crop. There's always a soy credit for nitrogen from soybeans. It's a better credit with peas. It was one of those issues we had logistically, always having to haul our peas down to Hastings. So soybeans is usually going to pay the bills a little bit better, but just rotating in another crop, having that diversity. And now that we've got the Lone Creek Cattle Company, which utilizes the peas for their finishing, since it's non-GMO, it's not grain, it's a legume, it can kind of check mark those boxes that make people feel better about what they're eating these days.
But otherwise, like you're saying, the safety net's just not there. We just don't have the easy button that you can take corn and beans into town. You know, when you're growing something a little different, you do have to keep that in mind.
We do. I mean, there's a lot of risk involved in growing these crops, and every bit we can take off of that, the better. So it's a work in progress, though.
But if slowly we can add a few acres here and there, do you see a good thing there?
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's other feedlots that have reached out to me talking about wanting to feed yellow peas. So, you know, there's a desire to feed something other than corn, but it's a niche market right now, and I think we just we need to take baby steps, and we'll get it to grow. But again, for soil health purposes, I just think we need to be doing more rotation.
Last year, Nebraska saw several deadly wildfires, also damaging thousands of acres. With pheasant and rifle deer hunting season approaching, officials remind hunters to do their part to prevent wildfires. Nebraska Game and Park says it takes a single spark to ignite a wildfire. In fact, it was a UTV that caused the Bovie fire, destroying parts of the Nebraska National Forest last year at this time. With that in mind, here are some tips. Avoid parking in tall vegetation, restrict the use of campfires, dispose of cigarettes appropriately, drive only on established roads and trails, and carry a fire extinguisher. We have these tips and more on our website, nebraska.tv. And thinking of drought, we've got our Grow Weather Outlook next, and later, from food prep to running the grain cart, we see how harvest brings families together.
NTV's Grow Weather is sponsored by Acres Equipment, solutions for every field. Acres has what you need to get the job done.
the drought monitor that was released earlier this week, Thursday morning, of course, as it always is. Still got lots of dry conditions across the Central Plains. Get a closer look at the state of Kansas, which remains relatively unchanged from the week prior. A couple of, say, deteriorations around a couple of categories here. No drought, now about 17%. Abnormally dry, roughly 83%. Both of those roughly a 0.5% deterioration from the week prior. Otherwise, the rest of these categories looked relatively similar to last week. 67% still in moderate drought, 48% still at severe drought. Extreme drought, roughly 20.5%, unchanged from last week. Exceptional drought still across parts of eastern and southeast parts of the state of Kansas, still at 1.65% in that category. Otherwise, moving up to the state of Nebraska now, lots of similarities compared to last week's report as well. A couple of deteriorations here for the no drought and abnormally dry categories, 32.75% in the no drought category and 67.25% in abnormally dry, which is about a 1.25% deterioration from last week. Otherwise, the rest of these categories are relatively the same from last week. Moderate drought, roughly 45%. Severe drought, roughly 26.2%. Extreme drought, 14%. And the exceptional drought, still across parts of eastern, central, and southeast Nebraska, still stands at 4.65%. Of course, these areas could still use a lot of rain, even with the rain that we had last week, although it might be a couple weeks before the drought monitor catches up with this past week's rain. October temperatures, here they are. Of course, the rest of the month still expecting above average temperatures for Kansas and Nebraska, even parts of extreme northeast Nebraska, maybe expecting well above average temperatures for the rest of the month. Of course, this hasn't changed either from last week. Precipitation totals for the rest of the month still expecting above average for western parts of Nebraska, as well as Kansas, central parts as well. Eastern parts of, say, Nebraska and Kansas still expecting average precipitation totals here the rest of the month. Of course, the 3-month temperature outlook here still expecting average temperatures for both Nebraska and Kansas. So really anywhere else you look around the country, expecting above average temperatures. And of course, the precipitation totals here the next 3 months still expecting a little bit above average precipitation for the southern part of Kansas. Otherwise, Nebraska, the rest of Kansas, expecting pretty average totals. Your Grow Almanac here for the week ahead. Normally we see a high of about 65 and normally a low of about 40. The week ahead right on par for that, 64. The week ahead average high and 41 for a low this week ahead. And here is the week ahead, looking at warmer temperatures here to start the week off in the 60s and 70s. Of course, we do have a system coming through potentially on Wednesday, might knock those temperatures down towards the end of the week. So some better harvest weather at the beginning of the week and the end of the week. Your Grow Proverb here for the week ahead. Much rain in October, much wind in December. And of course, with all that rain that we had this last week, let's hope it's not too windy, especially if those winds are out of the north come December. Well, that is a check of your Grow Weather Report. Make sure to stay tuned next week when once again, it'll be time to grow.
Sure enjoy seeing your photos, especially at harvest. You can send them to us by going to nebraska.tv and chiming in. Runza, cold sandwiches, or a hot meal in the field. We asked what mealtime looks like in the field. Heidi says individual pans of lasagna and meatloaf, and we might need to pay her place another visit because that sounds great. Gloria says fast food and sandwiches. Marge says she takes hot meals to the field and they eat off the tailgate. Janelle likes a crock pot at the bin site. Amy and FFA members delivering meals. If you want to comment, go to NTV's Grow on Facebook. Mom, grain buyer, food prep person, and meal gopher. We'll meet a young mom and her family and see how harvest brings folks together when Grow returns.
Ag Innovations is sponsored by Acres Equipment, solutions for every field. Acres has what you need to get the job done.
Farmers work in acres, not hours. And while they feed us, who feeds them? Farming isn't a job, it's a legacy passed through generations. And it takes generations to make this family farm go.
It's definitely a family time and a time that we can all help out and do stuff together.
And now with her husband, Micah, has two littles riding along.
It's busy. It's very busy.
Yes, it's go, go, go.
Annette Shimmer knows the feeling. Her favorite farmer is her husband. And with ground spread out, their crew keeps moving while they can.
Yes, as long as the sun is going, we're out in the field.
She remembers stopping to eat when she was little, but as farms have gotten bigger and there are thousands of acres to cover, folks depend on family or hired help. And mealtime is on the go, something made easier by this event, thanking farmers.
And so if this is a way we can help them grab and go and keep on going, then we're happy to help them out and thank them for what they do.
Feed the Farmer is an outreach of the Hall County Fair, remembering Grand Island's roots.
We are definitely an agricultural community. It's amazing to hear how families that get on the outskirts of town are like, I didn't even realize this was outskirts of town. And for us being on the outskirts of town, we're like, how did you not know?
The Lobs relate, with new housing behind this field and their main place next door to Walmart. The community has changed, but agriculture remains the common link among the top employers, and harvest is go time.
This hot, dry wind made it time to go fast.
Some great memories happening on this combine. Well, looking ahead to next week, we're going to meet our Farm Youth of the Month and also talk with a young professional trying to break the stigma when it comes to mental health on the farm. We'll see you again next time as we see how agriculture makes Nebraska great.
NTV's Grow is brought to you by Aurora Cooperative. Tougher together, Aurora and you.